Welcome back, times and newcomers alike to 999. Let's leave this freaking casino room for good.
All right.
Yes.
Let's go.
Victory! Next room, baby. Junpei and his companions ran out of the casino into a large, open room. A room, in fact, that they had been in once before. There was little to surprise them there. They already knew what their next step had to be. The iron gate still stood in place, locked tight, blocking the stairway. In the center of the gate was the keyhole, engraved with the Venus symbol. This time, however, Junpei had the Venus key in his pocket. Wasting no time, he pulled it out and shoved it into the keyhole. He turned it. With a distinctive sound of metal on metal, he felt the lock click open.
All right, let's get this thing open.
No problem. Let me help with this one.
Junpei grabbed the handle on the left side, and Seven took the handle on the right. On Junpei's signal, they both pushed, and the gate creaked open.
It sounds as though you have opened it. We should be able to reach sea deck now, I imagine.
Snake, are you gonna be all right? I mean, the stairs.
Please, do not do yourself the embarrassment of underestimating me. I would be unlikely to trip, even if I were running backwards.
Good to hear. Let's move.
At Seven's words, they leapt onto the stairs and jogged quickly down them. In no time at all, they found themselves on sea deck. Junpei ran down the stairs a little farther in hopes of checking the deck below. When he reached the water, he called back up to Snake and Seven.
Just what I thought. The deck is completely underwater.
Just like the bottom of the central staircase.
The surface of the water below them was flat, like a mirror. That it had not changed too greatly since they'd last seen it was a great relief. Junpei quickly retraced his steps and headed back to sea deck. In front of the stairs were a pair of elevators. They appeared to be identical to the ones from the upper floor. Between them, attached to the wall, was another card reader. And next to that was another strange symbol.
Hey, check it out. It's a symbol for Lotus.
What?
See? It's got the woman symbol, and then it's got the devil horns, right?
Yeah, I see it. No two ways about it. That was a pretty good one, kid.
Seven tousled Junpei's hair in what he likely thought to be a friendly manner. Junpei feared his neck might break, even though it was clear Seven had kept his strength in check. Thankfully, Snake interrupted. After Junpei's observation, he'd gone over to examine the card reader.
This is a Mercury symbol. The marks you mistook for horns are a stylized version of wings and staff of Hermes.
Wings and a staff, huh? So she beats you with a staff until you die and go to heaven. Sounds like Lotus, alright.
Seven shook Junpei's head even more vigorously, and the younger man began to feel as though his brain was being jostled about inside of his skull. He began to feel rather ill.
Unless we can activate this device, I doubt the elevator will function.
In other words, we gotta find a key card with a Mercury symbol on it.
So I would assume.
They decided to leave the elevators alone for the time being and headed back to the stairs. To the left was another hallway. There were a great many doors lining both sides of the hallway. They seemed to stretch on forever, and all three men suddenly felt very small.
Oh, shit. We're not gonna have enough time to check all these, are we?
Maybe we can come back here later. Let's check out the other side.
They turned around and went back the way they'd come. To the right of the stairs, another hallway stretched out, reaching deep into the bowels of the ship. After a few moments of moving briskly down the hallway, they emerged in an area roughly the same size and shape as the one at the top of the stairs. On the left side of the room were 4 French doors.
Well, let's open them up.
Junpei nodded and grabbed the one closest to him. He gave it a small tug and felt it move. It was unlocked. Thrilled to have found another unlocked door, he threw it open. Junpei didn't know what to make of what he saw. He simply stood, unable to speak. Seven's eyes opened wide and his mouth gaped. After a few long moments, Seven at last managed to speak.
Hey, what is this place?
A massive room stretched out in front of them, more a cavern than a room. Its vastness was oppressive, and it bore down on Seven and Junpei. It was not empty, however. The entire room was filled with lines upon lines of beds. They were simple things, little more than pipe, and then thin mattresses.
Is this a hospital?
He had at last been able to put a name to the harsh scent that pervaded the room. The room was full of the clean smell of antiseptic solution. In the center of the room were shelves stacked with medicine and a number of medical devices, the function of which Junpei did not know. More importantly, however, on the back wall of the room were 4 doors. 3 of them were emblazoned with large single-digit numbers made with thick red paint. The door on the left was labeled 3. The second door from the left had no number, but the third had been given a 7. The door on the right bore an 8. There could be no doubt they were numbered doors. Well, yeah, they have numbers on them, durr. Sorry, I had to put that in there. It did strike Junpei as strange, however, that the door between 3 and 7 should be blank. What, he wondered, could it mean?
Let's take a look at those doors.
Yeah, good idea.
3 of them threaded their way through the beds towards the back of the room. Upon reaching them, they proceeded to investigate each door in turn, but to no avail.
Yup, locked. Just like I thought.
Naturally. After all, there are rules to the nunnery game, and to allow these doors to open easily would violate those rules unless we can authenticate ourselves with the RED. The numbers doors will...
Whoa, check this out.
Suddenly, Seven spoke up, interrupting Snake.
Look at the red. There's nothing on it.
Huh?
Don't you remember the red back at the main staircase? If there wasn't anything in it, it said vacant on the little screen, remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But this one,
There's nothing.
right. You think it's broken?
Only one way to find out.
Junpei and the others put their hands on the panel, but nothing happened. The red refused to change. They tried pulling a lever and still nothing. As they soon discovered, it wasn't only the red on door 8 that seemed to be malfunctioning. The red on door 7. And the red on door 3. None of them worked. What, they wondered, did it mean?
They've gotta be broken. Man, that bastard. I didn't think Zero was the kind of guy who'd screw around with something like this.
Whoa. Zero's been prepared for everything so far. And you're saying he's gonna make a mistake now?
Well, that's the only thing I could think of. This thing ain't working at all.
While Junpei and Seven talked, Snake busied himself with examining the red. After a time, he lowered his hand and spoke.
It seems like some of the eternal hardware is removed.
Internal hardware?
That is what I said. Take a look at the underside of the RED, if you please.
Junpei obliged and bent over to look at the underside of the device. A long, thin slit ran along the bottom of it. As he looked harder, he realized it was more of a slot than a slit, and that it was clearly meant to accommodate some manner of electrical device. The other two reds were the same. Something had clearly been removed from all three of them.
I get it. So the reds aren't working because somebody pulled out their guts.
So I assume.
But why? And who? I mean, it doesn't really make sense.
I have no idea. Why on earth would I know something like that?
Just then, they heard the sound of a door opening. The three of them turned and saw... Akane! Oh no, Junpei thought, it's...
June!
She stopped short, surprised to see them, but was very nearly bowled over by the rest of her companions who were coming through the door behind her. Ace, Santa, Clover, and Lotus all poured out of the door, each of them as surprised as the last to see Junpei, Snake, and Seven. Junpei and Seven were, for the moment, at a loss for words.
What are you guys doing?
Why are you?
After a moment of silence and surprise, everyone suddenly began to talk, desperate to exchange information. They talked about the rooms they'd been through and how they'd ended up in the same place. Of course, none of it was very useful information, but that hardly mattered. They were happy to simply see one another again. Although the level of cheer varied greatly from person to person, each one of them was wearing the same manner of smile. Almost as though they had already forgotten about the death of the ninth man. No, thought Junpei, perhaps that wasn't it. Perhaps thoughts of his death were what drove them to smile at one another. Not in a morbid or hateful way, no. The ninth man had died, but they were still alive, and there was something to be happy about. A sort of simple, uncomplicated joy, Junpei thought. The joy of being alive. Still alive. He felt sorry for the ninth man, but more than anything, Junpei was just happy to be alive.
This is bad, though. If the red isn't working, we can't keep going.
What about the big hallway? Maybe there's somewhere in there we might be able to go.
No, there's nothing there. The five of us had a quick look. There were a great many rooms, although none of them have appeared to have held patients for quite some time.
Patience? You mean all these doors are for hospital rooms?
Yes. Apparently, they have a number of individual rooms, in addition to this large central room.
There was a door down at the end of the hallway, too, but it was locked.
It had one of those solar system mark things on it.
It was the Jupiter symbol.
Jupiter.
I wonder what it means.
Confusion seemed to be the consensus.
That reminds me, what's the deal with this big room anyway? What is this thing? Was this some kind of huge passenger ship?
No one, not even Snake, appeared ready to offer an answer until Seven unexpectedly spoke up.
Oh, I bet it's a hospital ship. In fact, it's probably the Gigantic.
The Gigantic?
Junpei looked at Seven, shocked both by his knowledge and the apparent identity of their prison. He was not the only one.
What's the Gigantic?
Seven nodded to Lotus and he began to speak.
The Gigantic?
He explained that she had been a sister ship to the Titanic, but in the early 20th century, the Titanic had two sister ships who were identical to one another in nearly every aspect. The Gigantic was said to be one of them. She was initially intended to be a passenger liner like the Titanic, but soon after the ship was launched, the First World War began, and she was pressed into duty by the British Navy as a hospital ship. Sometime later, the Gigantic was damaged by a German mine in the Aegean Sea. She managed to run aground after the incident and consequently was not sunk. What then happened to the Gigantic after a fateful encounter in the Aegean Sea? One theory ran that a man named Lord Gordain purchased her. Lord Gordain, it seemed, had been one of the few survivors of the Titanic tragedy, and the trauma had turned him into an obsessive collector of all things related to the Titanic. As his obsession deepened, he began to desire the Titanic itself. That, of course, was impossible. The Titanic lay at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The Gigantic, however, had not suffered such a dire fate, and as she was identical to her sister ship, she caught Lord Gourdaine's eye.
So you're saying this Lord Gourdain bought this ship?
Yeah. At least, I think I am.
That's impossible! There's no way we're in some boat that's almost 100 years old.
Pipe down. Just pay attention. What? That's it? Well, have you got any proof?
Proof?
Proof that the ship is really the Gigantic.
Well, this ship's got stuff that's like the Titanic and a hospital ship, so I just...
Oh, for
figured.
goodness. Don't tell me that's your only reason.
No, I've got more.
Like?
Well, I mean...
Seven looked around desperately, doing anything to avoid meeting Lotus's piercing stare. He scratched his head for a moment, then gave up. Finally, he opened his mouth.
I don't know.
Lotus sighed and shook her head.
I guess your memory isn't back yet, is it?
Nope. Sorry.
Then, almost as if to save Seven from further embarrassment, a bell began to ring from far away. It sounded as though it was the clock at the main stairway. Junpei counted each chime carefully. 10, 11, 12.
It's midnight.
Then we've still got 6 hours left, right?
Let's just keep moving. We gotta find that hardware the Reds are missing.
That's all well and good, but where are we going to look?
Well, we've already searched the big patient room,
They had been examining the room as they talked.
but we haven't found anything.
Right.
Well, there's only one thing left to do.
Just one?
Well, not just one.
Wait a minute! Are you telling me we have to search all of these rooms?
Well, you already checked some of them before you came here, right?
We each checked a single room, so 5 rooms in total.
Alright then, that's 5 rooms we don't have to search. If we split up, it won't be that bad. If each of us can do 6 rooms apiece, we can have the other 48 rooms cleared in no time.
There are 48 other rooms?
Lotus did not seem excited by the prospect. Seven fidgeted nervously before responding.
Maybe.
After some discussion, the 8 of them decided which rooms to begin with and in what order they would go. Junpei was chosen to search the rooms on the starboard side, moving from fore to aft. They also determined when they would return to report their findings, the next time the clock sounded the time. When it did, they would meet back in the large central room full of beds. If during their search any of them were to locate the missing components, they were to yell for the others. If this strategy failed, they returned to discuss their options later. The details decided, they left to begin searching. Out into the hallway they went, each to the rooms they'd been assigned. However, from far away, Junpei heard the bell ring. It did so only once. It was 1 a.m. He jogged through the entrance of the large hospital room to find 6 of the others already there. Ace, Santa, Clover, June, Seven, and Lotus. They had gathered in front of the door number 8. Or perhaps to be accurate, they had gathered in front of the red next to door number 8. Had one of them found the missing piece?
What happened, guys?
It was June who answered him.
Jumpy, look!
She was pointing at the red. He pushed through the others until he stood in front of it. Immediately, he knew what she had meant. The display on the front of the red read vacant. Junpei sighed.
Come on, guys, who was it? I thought we were supposed to yell if we found it.
Well,
Junpei wondered why she was hesitating. The others looked as confused as June, but kept their mouths shut.
What the hell? What is up with you guys?
They all knew something he didn't. Junpei wasn't about to leave things that way. Finally, Lotus frowned and spoke.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know.
You don't know?
When I got back, it was already like this. And there was no one else here. That means I was the first person back, but the missing parts were already back in the red.
Junpei looked at the bottom of the red again just to make sure. The slot that had been open on the bottom was now covered with metal. Clearly, whatever he had been missing had been returned.
What about the other two?
They're the same.
Junpei quickly examined the other two boxes. Satisfied that they were also repaired, but still very confused, he returned to the others.
Alright, I just want to be sure here. Nobody has any idea what the hell happened here, right?
Ace and June nodded silently. Seven raised his hands as if to say, "Not me," and Santa just shrugged. Only Clover lowered her head and did nothing.
Huh? Wait a minute.
That was when he noticed.
Where's Snake?
Junpei swept his eyes across the room a second time, but Snake was nowhere to be seen.
Does that mean that he found them?
I've no idea. There's nothing suggested, but nothing to suggest he didn't either.
I don't suppose we'll know until we can ask him in person.
Well, whatever he did or didn't do, he's pretty damn late. What the hell is he up to?
maybe he's lost.
Yeah, well, that seems likely. Dude can't see. I don't know how he gets around in the first place.
Clover raised her hand.
No, that's impossible!
Suddenly, she was shouting.
Yeah, my brother's blind, but he's got really great hearing. He can get around as well as anyone who can see. So he couldn't get lost. That's impossible.
Clover had started to shake, and the knuckles of her hands had gone white. She spun around, but before she did, Junpei noticed tears welling up in her eyes.
I'm gonna go look for him!
The words were barely out of her mouth when she began to run.
Hey! Hold on! Clover, wait!
Junpei cried out to her, but he was too slow. She kept going, and before anyone else could react, she was gone.
Damn it! What should we do now?
Well, the red is working now.
No, we're not leaving two people behind. We should go look for them.
Oh man, this ain't good.
Oh yes, what an excellent idea. We just wasted a bunch of time looking for some pieces of electronic junk. Now let's waste some more time by looking for a couple of idiots.
Then remain here if you feel you must, but there's no time. We've only got 5 hours left.
Junpei and the others nodded to one another and took off at a run. In front of the stairs that led to B deck, they decided to split up. They quickly assigned search areas and went their separate ways. Soon, only two of them were left. Those two were Junpei and June, who had been a few steps behind the others.
Alright, we should go too.
Yes, let's go. But where do we start?
Let's see.
Hard to say. Let's start with... I don't think it matters, actually, so let's start with the casino.
How about the casino on B deck?
Okay, sounds good.
They took off up the stairs at a run. Before they knew it, they were there. So was Lotus. She was leaning against the wall, examining her nails.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
She glanced up at him, unimpressed.
Isn't it obvious? I'm looking for Snake.
I'm just not seeing it.
Really? Maybe you need to look harder.
Junpei didn't think that was the problem.
Oh, by the way, I've got a proposal for you two. Care to hear it?
Well, let's listen to what she has to say.
What is it?
Well, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll get right to it. Why don't we team up?
Team up?
Yeah. What? You need me to explain it to you? I'm saying, why don't we go through a numbered door?
Even if we wanted to, that's impossible.
Why?
Junpei's bracelet number is 5, mine is 6, and yours is 8. Our digital root would be 1.
5 plus 6 plus 8 equals 19. 1 plus 9 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1.
But there's no number 1 door in the large hospital room. The only doors there are 3, 7, and 8.
Then we add another person.
Huh?
Who?
What, isn't that easy? 7.
She was right. If they added 7, 5 plus 6 plus 8 plus 7 equals 26. 2 plus 6 equals 8. Then the 4 of them could go through the number 8 door. But
Whoa, hold on a second. What about the other 4?
Why don't you add them up?
that was simple enough. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1.
The digital root for those 4 would be 1.
That's right.
And you know the number 1 door isn't in the big hospital room, right?
Of course I know that.
No! Are you saying you'd leave them behind?
Of course not. What kind of woman do you think I am? Once we get off the ship, we could come back and rescue them, couldn't we? Then we wouldn't really be leaving them behind.
Don't try to lie to us. I don't think you'd do anything of the sort.
Really? Why do you think that?
You remember, don't you? We have less than 5 hours left. Even if we manage to escape, there's no way we could come back and rescue them in less than 5 hours.
Well, you never know until you try.
No, you're not thinking this through. Even if we brought 7 with us, we wouldn't be able to get off the ship. The 4 of us couldn't open door 9.
It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9.
Yeah, that's right. The digital root for us 4 will be 8, so we'd have to add Ace to make 9.
Right. Unless we bring Ace too, we'll be stuck.
Lotus scratched the back of her ear.
Oh. Well, that's unfortunate.
She didn't sound particularly bothered by what Junpei said, nor did she seem particularly surprised.
Well, let's try to find another way, okay? A way to get out of here with all 8 of us.
That is impossible. Are you even being serious? You do know that only 5 people can go through one of the numbered doors, right? The number 9 isn't going to be an exception to that rule. Regardless, at least 3 people will get left behind.
You're right. That is true.
The moment he said it, Junpei felt a chill run down his spine. It was true. How Lotus could remain cavalier about so terrifying a prospect was beyond him. When they found the number 9, they would have to choose. When they found the number 9, they would have to choose which 3 of them would die. Lotus's forehead furrowed.
Do you think I could have a moment alone? There are some things I need to think about.
Junpei and June turned and began walking away from Lotus. Talking to her had left them feeling ill. Junpei's heart felt heavy and his steps sluggish. But he told himself pessimism would get them nowhere. So he forced himself to smile and turned to June.
Let's just focus on finding Snake for now, okay?
Yes, you're right. We can think about those other things later.
Junpei nodded.
Alright, where should we go next?
Okay, let's go with the hallway with all the rooms. Why not? Alright, nah, screw it. The first class cabin. We'll go down the list.
Let's go take a look at the first class cabin. It's really close.
They turned around and took off down the hallway to their left. Outside of the first class cabin, they found Clover. She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at a meaningless point in the wall, her eyes blank. What should Junpei do? Let's talk.
Are you alright?
He did his best to sound friendly, but Clover didn't respond.
Look, I know you're really worried, but...
He could think of no words to say that didn't sound hollow and fake. Junpei hesitated. Clover was so consumed by worry and fear that Junpei feared it would crush her. Her actions didn't surprise him. She had suddenly lost her brother, who she seems to have been very close to. Her voice was thin and barely audible.
I said leave me alone!
Suddenly, she was screaming.
You're so annoying! Just go away and leave me alone! Just looking at you guys is pissing me off! Go away, okay? Just go somewhere else! Stop bothering me!
Junpei was taken aback. Such anger and hate. June's eyes had gone wide with surprise as well.
Why are you still here? Didn't you hear me? Fine. Get it. If you aren't gonna leave, then I'll just...
Alright. Let's go, June.
Yeah.
They turned and left Clover. As they did, Junpei glanced back over his shoulder to see Clover wiping tears from her face. Clover had driven home the misery of their situation, but Junpei told himself that getting depressed would get him nowhere but depressed. For Clover's sake, they had to find Snake, and fast. He did his best to push away the misery and depression and forced a smile.
So, where do you think we should go next?
We'll have to find out next episode. Rate, comment, subscribe, favorite, and see you guys next time.